Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Young Jedi Adventure Season 3, Episode 1, The New Droid Friend / Batuu Bonanza. The episode is rated TV Y, and other than the forthcoming YouTube video recommendation, so will this video be. There will be spoilers for the show so far, possibly for everything Star Wars leading up to and including when this episode first premiered. And yeah, another good to great episode. So it is Pride Month. Not much Pride stuff to talk about in the episode. So instead, it's going to be the video recommendation that is Pride themed. The video called Why No One Believes Bisexuals by the Q-Word Collective. And yeah, they spell out the Q word. I'm an ally, but I still feel uncomfortable using that reclaimed slur currently. Anyway, yeah, I think let's start with a very cool new intro, and kind of looks like it's positioning Rek as the new sort of antagonist, and repositioning the pirate prince guy as a sort of frenemy, which I think does work. Like, it's Star Wars does tend to have very clear villains, so if you are redeeming a villain, obviously you're gonna need a new one. And yeah, I think it's my favorite intro sequence so far of the show. So I am going to admit immediately that I really went through quite the roller coaster of emotions about the first portion of the episode. So I think I'll just I'll call out what I felt as we get to it. So yeah, we open on them, the trio working, on droids, and I want to say her name is Dottie comes in, and it very much has this sort of, kindly grandmother vibe, the character, I mean, that I thought worked well. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed when, being a kid, my maternal grandmother, when she, visiting her, the yeah, that was always cool. And I guess that does pretty much get us to. So we've got the little spider droids who continue the trend of the show of being, just like creepy enough that the children are like, oh, that's cool, but not like nightmare inducing. They don't want angry parents contacting them. And yeah, so they steal the vocal thing, and immediately I'm thinking that while I obviously appreciate that we don't want like everyone constantly going around stealing from each other, the show doesn't always, I don't always agree with the messages and the way they're communicated. As I believe I went over the following in the last time the show did an episode that was telling kids not to steal, which once again I do appreciate. Like, we don't want kids to think it's okay to steal. It's just that I am of the opinion that certainly we shouldn't punish someone severely if they are stealing to like feed their family, or like, because there's a statistic that I don't remember the exact numbers, but there's something about that shoplifting, like a lot of it is like food and baby supplies, and that is like genuinely what you want them to starve. You want their baby to not have, be properly taken care of. Like, you realize a a person can go through lifelong really awful consequences if they are not properly taken care of when they're a child, especially when they're a baby. So, but at the same time, I appreciate, kids should not be stealing. Like, ideally, there's someone making sure they are able to eat. But yeah, so in part, the first, the first half of this episode is about, not stealing. And certainly they go above and beyond, making the spider droids just the biggest jerks in the galaxy. There was no need for them to slime the diner owner and operator. Knocking over it was like mic stand or something. It's like, what are you even doing? Just, yeah. Will say, did not expect to ever think of the words tickle fight as an actual like form of attack. That's usually like something people do to play. And I guess that does pretty much cover the yeah, that gets us to the the couple of droids that are yeah, refusing to work because Rek steals. And that is also, it's the fact that these, muscle droids work for Rek definitely also, more like entries in the con column. That's con as opposed to pro, not as opposed to like free person. But yeah, like essentially there's a bit of like crime boss thing going on with Rek, and I do think that is going to be fun. I hope that I am interpreting the opening sequence right, that he is going to be a bit of a recurring antagonist, because they can do things with his character that they couldn't necessarily do with Prince Pirate, at least not when Prince Pirate was an outright villain. This kind of, like, I don't know, I got a soft spot for these kinds of, like, villains that are evil geniuses. So he's like an engineer. He builds and upgrades droids, and he's gonna make the muscle droids tougher, which means each time they fight him, he's like the Borg. He adapts. And right, and just to be clear, obviously, I'm not trying to like say something positive about Disney. I'm talking about the work that the people working for them do, on the show. That's what I'm trying to praise. There are no good corporations. Now, I think that does pretty much bring us to the yeah, so the fight at the end of that first half of the episode. Good stuff. And I do also, I appreciate that they gave Rek personality, you know. And after the fight, we have the bit about the let's see. Yeah, one of the things is that, as far as, so there was a brief bit there where I thought, oh, so you're teaching children that it's not okay to steal, even if it's something that someone else needs. But we do also find out it's actually, there were other solutions. So by the end of that first half of the episode, it is basically saying stealing should only, I mean, it's not really saying stealing is ever okay, but it's definitely saying that, yeah, there are alternatives, there are other ways. And that I do think is important for children to understand, because, like, I mean, I believe it's age 25 is when our brains are fully developed. So it is important to teach children, hey, really think this through. Are you sure this is the way to go? Because these are also, things like stealing. That is something that can ruin your life. Like, there are parts of the world where yeah, if you steal something as a kid, for the rest of your life, people are going to think of, oh, that's the thief, rather than, oh, they were a kid, they made a mistake. And I guess that does bring us to the, and yeah, like we see, you know, Rek is too arrogant to ask anyone else for help. And because of that, turns to stealing to do these upgrades. And yeah, as soon as Beeper comes in front of Dottie, you know, she's like, I know how to do this, which genuinely, yeah, very cool. Old Republic days. That is, yeah. I wonder if this part was helped to assist one of the knights back then. I do own the two old, are there new ones? I forget. Knights of the Old Republic games. It's not going to be soon, but I would like to do videos on them. Haven't started on them yet. It's definitely going to be a while. I've got other Star Wars games I'm going to get to first, but anyway, yeah, and by the end of this first half of the episode, our trio's up to 6 rather than down to 2. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, without a doubt, these 3 droids are genuinely, you know, very, very cute marketing opportunities. I mean merchandise. I mean characters. And I like the way that they're paired up with the one member of the, you know, the 3 that, like, sort of like personality-wise, they fit together well. And that brings us to Batuu Bonanza. And like with other episodes, I appreciate that these, you know, the show is for 6-year-olds. So I'm not going to complain too much about how they have to learn the same lesson like 4 times, I guess. Like first the droids have to learn not to be distracted, and then all 3 of the kids get distracted, but by the time of Kai, he's fast enough to not oh wait, I guess Kai gets distracted twice, doesn't he? Well, almost the second time. Maybe that's why he learned it by, you know, before the others did. But yeah, it is obviously something important to teach children. And yeah, I did also appreciate, you know, that they made the effort. You know, each of the in the writers' room, each of them are distracted by something we already know they absolutely love. You know, Nubs, nature, Liz, creature, you know, Kai, spaceship. I definitely got to thinking of like pet responsibility when the droids run off and accidentally break stuff. You know, it's there's that thing about like our kids, you know, when are kids old enough to be responsible for their own pet kind of situation, you know. And yeah, I think that's maybe also something that's throwing me off just a tiny bit. Like, you're sure you don't want to maybe focus on that the pet droids are being, you know, distracted rather than the kids are, and maybe like the kids have to go chasing around, you know, spend more of this episode chasing around for these droids. I don't know. Um, I guess that does pretty much cover the yeah, so they end up getting to the hauler, and the droid explains, well, it's at, you know, it's at the yeah, it's been taken to its final destination, as it were. And so they go to the recycling area. This place is kind of a dump, but okay. And that's also one of the places where I'm like, okay, I get this show is definitely not saying, hey, kids, 6-year-olds watching the show, please mimic this. Like, obviously, they're not suggesting that, you know, kids watching the show should go to an actual dump and start digging through stuff. Yeah. And yeah, I appreciated the action and the payoffs near the end of the episode with all these machines, including one that I guess was later miniaturized to fit Wall-E. The squashing things together into cubes. And the let's see, yeah, the thing about, like, at first they accidentally reprogram in the wrong direction, so Kai ends up being pulled back or guided back by the instead the what's that called again? Yeah, the thing, rather than the being helped to for the garbage to end the package, obviously, especially being sent back towards him. And the magnet thing and flying and all this stuff, really, really good stuff. They really pushed it up to the very last second. He barely got the thing in time. And yeah, I do think it works that by the end of the episode, the droids understand you got to really focus and then you can accomplish things. And yeah, I just wish it had been more about that and less about the kids. Like, because the kids could be like, listen, we used to get distracted. It's okay, but yeah. I guess, yeah, and genuinely cool. They get to see the contents of the package, and hey, you're never gonna lose me with like this, you know, green message, this thing of like all of them are like, wow, you know, what's it called? Sapling. That's gonna help with nature. That's wonderful, and absolutely, we should be encouraging children to, you know, yeah, love and respect nature. Um, you know, I mean, I appreciate, you know, a lot of conservative Christians would say, oh, nature is just for us human beings to, take advantage of, and we don't have to worry about, you know, yeah. And I don't know, it's just, when it comes to nature, I'm not saying everything in nature. You know what? Let's focus on stuff like trees and clean water and such, things that, yeah, capitalists love to destroy for profit, or don't care about destroying as long as there is profit. Let's do a slightly more good faith reading. Yeah, clean water, clean air, trees, these are things that literally keep us alive. We would not be here if not for those. And I mean, if enough are destroyed, they're genuinely like, the videos for 6-year-olds, that would be bad. That would not be good for people. But I don't know. I do appreciate there are other reasons as well why conservatives don't care about them.